I said, empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot.
Well, I mean, definitely in the beginning, I had no intention or whatsoever that what I was practicing and what I'm still practicing now would lead to this to begin with. But martial art has a very, very deep meaning as far as my life is concerned, because as an actor, as a martial artist, as a human being, all these I have learned from martial art.
Hi, I'm Jeff Spike Wong. Welcome to episode 2 of The Art of Improvisation, inspired by Bruce Lee's Tao of Jeet Kune. Now, episode 2 is about development of self. So what I did is I'm going to get into the book Tao of Jeet Kune, and we're going to discuss it a little bit in regards to Bruce Lee's philosophy and how it's applied in sense of improvisation. So on page 22, he actually says, truth have no path. Truth is living and therefore changing. Truth has no path. It's always changing. Okay, so let's think about this. Changing. That means the reality of what's going on is in a constant motion. That also means, in regards to that there is no path, means that we can't sit here and just go, okay, I'm going to create and it's going to be exactly this way. That preconceived thought. Because then the expression becomes rigid, and that rigidness is no longer being self in the moment. And what we're talking about in regards to, especially in Jeet Kune, where the definition is way of intercepting fist, it's a reaction, it's a defensive. Okay, so if I'm a musician, if I'm playing jazz or I'm playing blues, where it definitively feeds off listening to other players in the room, I cannot go into it thinking, okay, here it is in the key of A, so therefore I can play with the major and the minor pentatonics. I can slur into that back and forth and just create great licks. And if I play that great lick, then I can incorporate this other little movement montage of, let's say, Stevie Ray Vaughan and go into that. And then I'll come in and do this little pull-off lick on the third. You notice where I'm going with this is that if you're continuously to think in that direction, you're absolutely not in the moment. You're absolutely not being self. You're now methodically, logistically manufacturing a path. And if you're manufacturing a path, then you're no longer expressing, because now you're calculating. Calculation is a huge aspect of stopping the expression of self. Okay, so let's talk about how to develop self. The key aspect of developing self goes back to what we talked about in episode 1, the Zen aspect of it. Okay, so if you have not seen that episode, go to episode 1, check that out. But let's look at some of the things that you're going to do for improvisation. Let's do a couple of exercises that is going to help you. Let's take an instrument, and in our case it's a guitar. Before you play your guitar, just look at your guitar's neck. And immediately you're going to, depending on your skill level, have a certain approach to how you're going to apply your hand technique onto this guitar neck. Well, with that being the case, you also now have to think, okay, I'm going to take that information that I just now view my fretboard, and I'm going to just put it away and not think about it again. So now I'm going to look at my neck. What am I going to see? I'm going to see my neck. I'm not going to see the patterns, the preconceived idea of familiarity of certain strings, certain notes, certain hand position. I want to put all that away. So how is it approached then from the aspect of playing? If I take all I know away, then what am I knowing? Well, this goes to, why are you thinking about the next note when you have not played the first note? It is quintessential for you to really embrace and understand your music theory and your instrument. This is no different than if you did not know how to kick and punch effectively, correctly. You can hurt yourself. You could definitely injure a part of your body and not be aware that that cause comes from you not being familiar enough with the technique. The other aspect of it is using a technique that was not effective. Somebody's grabbing you from behind. Oh, I only know a front snap kick. Well, that doesn't work. So therefore, if you're playing in a jazz situation, but all I know is harmonic minor, well, then you need to go back and add more tools to your repertoire. The key thing about techniques and having those things, it is important for you to be able to continue to add to that. This is one of the things that, if you study Bruce Lee, is that he has this vast library. He has the concept down of regards to nothing is worthless. I can use something from everything. The effectiveness also is being creative. He took a mirror and used to run films of boxers reflecting off a mirror so he can see how it looks from the stance of going the other way. Now, that's thinking out of the box. That's actually saying, if I strengthen my left hand, what about my right hand? If there's nobody writing a technique on strengthening my right hand, then how do I go about taking the techniques that I've learned from strengthening my left hand to use it on my right hand? If I learn my theory with scales, and I know these scales do these things, then how do I take that and work it into seamless improvisation? One of the things that I always taught my students was really take value to all your music theory. But truthfully, I only use one scale, and that scale is chromatic scale. And a lot of my students often looked at me, he's like, well, you know, that may be good for you, but I need to play something that is going to be this genre, or in this box, or in this. Well, if the chromatic scale is every note, all 12 notes in this Western system, then that scale covers everything. Now it's your decision as the expressionist, the artist, to be able to take those notes. And yes, sometimes it will just go with what a major scale sounds like, or a minor scale sounds like, or, you know, fill in the blank. But the fact remains is that the chromatic scale offers all 12 notes. Now, I'm going to get to this point of understanding all 12 notes and what it says to you between note 1 to note 2 is the important aspect of knowing how you're going to make your expression or your statement without preconceiving the entire sentence. Or in Bruce Lee's fashion, I am going to block because I saw the punch coming, but I'm not preconceived that I'm going to punch, kick, backspin, bite your face, and then poke your eyes out. Jeet Kune just doesn't teach that many steps ahead, even though everything I've mentioned is part of the Jeet Kune technique. So what is it? How can I take improvisation and make it effective? When you go from note 1, that's your first statement. My note sings out. Now that note's value in sense of timing could be 10 measures, or it could be a 16th note. It's up to you. It's your choice. When you go to the next note, now that's something is now start to develop, is start to tell a story. It started to flow out of you as a statement. How does it sound? Well, it's not how does it sound. What are you saying? That's the question. What are you actually saying? So, when there's no path, no preconceived thoughts, you're saying whatever you're able to comprehend by your grasp of the knowledge and the technique. So those two things are extremely important in development of self. If you're just playing and you're going, that sounds like gibberish. Does it sound like gibberish to you? Are you actually just stabbing at notes? Because you yourself know. There's times I play things that sounds like gibberish, but it's done with intent, because maybe that particular movement, I wanted tension. I wanted to have a certain feeling that created uncertainty. One of the things you will find, especially like in soundtracks of movies, notes that doesn't always harmonize and doesn't always give you the pleasing feelings and these so-called good emotional movements are done on purpose. When you have so-called horror movies or suspenseful movies, scenes and so forth, the aspect of music creates tension, because that is a dimension other than what your eyes are seeing, and all your senses of what you're hearing is start to vibrate in these frequencies, and your body start to feel this so-called scene. And if you're watching somebody coming into a creepy house, you're not really going to play a major scale, because that harmonizes and it sounds good and it feels good. Well, there's nothing scary about that, or nothing suspenseful about harmonizing in that sense. So you need to take a look at that and understand how that come about. So with that being the quintessential, the crucial aspect of thought when you're coming through as an artist, development. How do you develop self to be able to be comfortable with that? Well, are you looking at your theory books in regards to what certain movements can do certain things? Are you studying soundtrack from film works that you love the movies and you love the composers? For instance, I love John Williams. He's done everything from Star Wars, Jaws, all kind of stuff. And I find that he understands how to create moods for these scenes. So I buy soundtracks and listen to the soundtracks without watching the movie. This helps me to understand deeper in what I'm hearing. As far as technique goes, and I'm speaking from a guitar point of view, my hand lays on the neck a certain way. And if I want to create a certain tension between the notes, I have several choices. Does the strings vibrate in these fingerings that create the correct frequencies, the correct tonality of what I'm trying to say to you? Because if you don't know that aspect of it, then you need to spend time in understanding yourself in your guitar. Pianists are the same way. Pianists have 88 keys right in front of them. And sure, 7 1/3 octave, they can pick and choose a certain interval, the distance between the notes. And this is where it could be something as delicate and intricate as this, or it could be something as grandeur as a symphony, right from the hands. So the aspect of knowing self in that respect, it has come from those two things. You have to keep on refining your knowledge. You have to constantly looking at what you're seeking the truth with that knowledge, how to connect that. And the connection of that is no longer having to think. It's to understand, to know how to flow into it. If somebody came and swing at you, either block or duck. No tricks. Now, on the development of self, the path to truth. Let's go a little bit deeper about the searching for the truth aspect of it. The path to truth. What is truth? If truth has no so-called guidelines, truth cannot be harnessed. It can only be in the moment. Then how are you going to continuously to teach yourself to arrive in that moment, the moment you needed to be there? There's a couple of things I can definitely share with you that's going to help you. And this is time consuming. This is also very effective. And you have to make a commitment. So there's the trick right there. The development itself of greatness in finding the path of truth requires you making a definitive commitment to yourself of saying this is what you're looking for, and you will do the work, the homework, if you will, to achieve it. Okay? So the first thing is meditation. How are you developing self and understand truth from meditation? Well, first and foremost is you're wanting to calm your mind down. You want to take the distraction of daily lives. What am I having for dinner? Who's picking up the kids? Gee, my report is due by 3 o'clock. It's 2:35. You need to take all that and cleanse it. Take it away from you. You need to have a daily moments, whether it's be 10, 15, 30 minutes, hour and a half. You need to make time, a commitment to yourself to be able to be still. Now, one of the best thing that we ever have now is YouTube, of course. Go to YouTube, pick up the sound frequency pages, which will play you instantaneous and continuous, let's say 432 hertz frequency of calming energy, and put that on. Sit in a room, lay down in a room. Don't be where there's distractions. If you have animals, send them to a different room. If you have people in the house, let them know you're about to go into a meditation zone that everybody needs to let you to be on your own and not to be disturbed. And you need to take your time and allow your mind to calm, be at peace, and then let information come through, go out, breathe in, breathe out. Breathing is quintessential. Martial arts training teaches this. Exhale. Inhale, bring in chi. This chi is the same motion when you're meditating. It's also the same key component about playing. If you're bringing in the energy and exhaling out as your notes are coming out, that is something that needs practice. I can't begin to tell you how many guitar players I've met, or musicians overall, with their instruments, that they hold their breath when they're practicing or playing. And when you're doing that, you're constricting. You're just not letting the chi flow. So breathing, practice breathing, especially for some of you who are just now for the very first time doing this. Breathing. Close your eyes, center yourself. Center means pick a spot in the mind's eye, focus, clear it, breathe in, breathe out. And the more you do this, the slower it becomes, the more chi it comes through you, the easier it becomes. And pretty soon what you will find is half hour is nothing. And what you will also find is you will start to get knowledge from a universal source because you have stilled your mind. This is development of self. This is finding the path of truth. Now, the other aspect of it is what is your unique statement of this path to truth? There is no answer to that because only you know what is your truth. My truth at this point in my position of musician, playing for over 35 years, almost 40 years, there is certain energy in certain notes I play that I would say I rarely hear anywhere. And it's not saying that I'm great or this is a spectacular thing that, I'm no longer having to borrow or whatever it may be. It's not like that. When you're at this level of self-discovery, all those preconceived thoughts are gone. There is no competition. There is no more better. There is no more of any kind of boundaries or governors that we were conditioned from the daily distractions. You are simply there. Sometimes it's just that simple. It is simply there. The moment of truth. When we watch Bruce Lee, even on film with his movies, you know these are all choreographed. However, he put a lot of thought to these choreographs, making sure not every movie is going to repeat itself in the fighting scenes. That's deep thoughts. That's consideration. These are things that comes from his philosophy of Zen development. And of course, that's development of self. And from development of self, saying, what is my expression? What are my paths? What am I giving? What is it saying? And when you look at the scenes of as he got more control in his movie career, his scenes became more identifiable and more unique of self-expression, whether it's to be with nunchucks, whether it's with sticks, whether it's with punches, kicks. All these things became uniquely him to present to the screen. And hence why you notice once he is no longer with us, everybody scrambled in the movie industry in the Far East trying to find the next guy, and all they did was just get a bunch of guys try to copy what they saw. You know, that was never going to even come close. That's equivalent to everybody went to the Jimi Hendrix School of Guitar and just immediately says, hey, you know what? We need to find the next Jimi Hendrix. So therefore play just like Jimi Hendrix. And what happens is you're going to get a bunch of people that sounds not as good as Jimi Hendrix because they're not Jimi Hendrix. So I hope with this episode 2 that will start you down to the journey of self-discovery, self-empowerment, the path of truth discovery. Always welcome comments. Leave me comments, questions. I'll be glad to answer them. Visit my Patreon page. Support this movement. The awakening as an artist is precious, as we are on this planet for a certain purpose. And the purpose for me is expression.